Hello and welcome to the Sumner County Sports Show. I am your host, Blaine Keller, sports editor of the Portland Sun, Gallatin News, and Hendersonville Standard. We've got a wonderful show set up for you today. Of course, I am still recording remotely here from my home base here in South Nashville. Our producer, Justin Kulik, on the road today, helping us out a huge ton as we gear up for the last week of high school sports. Spring fling gearing up next week. We'll have some really exciting stuff planned for you then. This is really just a hustle and bustle over these last 10 days to try to figure out as much as you can on a day-by-day basis. To kind of give you an example, tomorrow is the softball sectional. We'll get into which teams from Sumner County will be there at that round in a minute, but I still have no clue where I'm going as we are recording this right now because of how these schedules play out, because of how this part of the season plays out. But it's really exciting to be at this point of the year. We're going to change around our order a little bit today on the Sumner County Sports Show. We're going to bring you our Sumner County storylines to start and then bring in our guest at about 10 to 15 minutes in. Really excited for that. Another Chris, to tease it a little bit. Last week we had Chris McWhorter, beach baseball coach. This week, Chris Freeman. Really excited for that. But just diving right into our Sumner County storylines, the softball teams remaining. We've got, of course, major spring sports, minor spring sports, however you want to categorize that, but one of which being softball. We had a really exciting district championship between one of the two remaining teams in Sumner County, that being Beach. The Buccaneers dropped their first game in the district tournament last Tuesday to Hendersonville. A bit of a surprise there. The Buccaneers were the top-ranked team in their district. They were the regular season champion, but they faced elimination that very next day. Didn't seem to faze them, though. They won 5 straight to stave off elimination and win that district tournament. The Buccaneers Beach will be traveling to Nolensville on Friday. That's tomorrow. We're recording today, of course, on Thursday, after a region championship loss to Green Hill. Pretty close, but Green Hill is a really dominant force in Class 4A softball right now. That was a bit of a buzzsaw to run into, and now they'll have to go up against Western Kentucky signee Ryland Smith, another tough pitcher to face off against for a right to go to Murfreesboro. The other team remaining is Westmoreland. They'll face Community in Unionville after a 6-4 loss to Bledsoe County in last night's region championship. So both Sumner County teams on the road. I think if you're Westmoreland, you're actually kind of grateful that you avoid 4-time state champion in Forest in this sectional round. Community, of course, beating the Rockets in their region championship. But the Vi Queens will seek a second straight trip to Murfreesboro after making their first ever tournament appearance last year. So Westmoreland going for some history, but it's going to take a lot with them being on the road and facing a team that has been at that level and beyond. We'll move on to soccer here. There are 3 soccer teams remaining in Sumner County. First, start off with Merrill Hyde, which rallied from a 2-0 deficit on Tuesday to beat Watertown. It was a pretty exciting game that I was at. This is a matchup between opponents where Merrill Hyde has really gotten the best of Watertown in previous years. Watertown, though, came out with some revenge to come up, with a 2-score lead, I think, in the first 20 minutes. Over the next 60, Merrill Hyde really just composed itself, realized it's been in this moment, realized it's been far beyond this moment before in the state semifinals, and rallied for the region semifinal win. Matthew Henderson is somebody that you really want to look out for in that game, a player to give props to. Him and Braden Evans both had 2 goals, but Henderson's just an 8th grader. He had a really incredible game, got his team on the board to start the game, and gave Merrill Hyde the lead in the second half. So great game from the Hawks and moves them on to their 5th straight sectional in school history. They're looking for their 3rd straight state tournament appearance this year. Of course, that's just the appetizer for the main course tonight, though. You've got Hendersonville and Station Camp Soccer again for the region championship. We didn't get to mention it in last week's show, but Station Camp won 3-1 in the regular season, took a 2-1 district championship in the previous meeting. That was a pretty exciting game as well. A fill-in goalie for the Bison, and Gavin Bruce continued to provide great goals for them. On the Hendersonville side, though, you kind of look at how they did last season. Commandos went 2-0-1, technically undefeated against Station Camp last year, the regular season being a draw, and the district championship and region championship providing wins for them. So, it's going to be another great matchup. We'll have a photographer there to kind of give you some great shots, great flicks from it. Of course, both teams advance to Saturday. That's going to be the sectional round for soccer in Class AAA. But here's how both teams got there to kind of give you an idea. Hendersonville, which struggled on the road throughout the season, they played a very, very brutal schedule. Went to Hillsboro for an early start and took a 2-0 win there, blanked the Burros, who won their district championship over Antioch. Station Camp had a high-scoring game against the Bears of Antioch, of course. That was a 5-2 game where a lot of players got involved for Station Camp. It was a scoreless game at halftime, so I believe 7 second-half goals there to move them on to another matchup against their county and district rival here. So that one's, of course, going to be a great one to watch tonight being Thursday. Give you some track and field, baseball, and tennis news to round out the storylines here. There are 40-plus state track and field qualifiers from Sumner County this season. That's including individuals and relay teams. Plenty of talent across the board. I'm particularly interested to see how Gallatin's Kamaria Corder competes. She broke Gallatin's 48-year-old high school high jump record this spring. Not really something you see stand for that long, almost half a century. I think century's 100 years. 48-year record broken there, and she had a great outing at the Sumner County Track and Field Championships, the one time I've been able to see some track and field action this year. She's going to be a great player to watch in that event. Other ones, Beach with Coach Scott Waiteka, who is actually stepping down at the end of the season to become the track and field coach at Liberty Creek. I believe he'll coach cross country as well. So a bit interesting when you look at the Buccaneers. They have the most event qualifiers of any school in Sumner County, but Waiteka choosing the now second-year school in Liberty Creek once he takes over there. On the other side, maybe Station Camp, Emory Springs back in the spotlight. We did our Gallatin Hendersonville Main Street Preps papers did a story on Emory Springs earlier in the spring. A Western Kentucky soccer commitment that's really just trying to make the most of her high school career as it comes to a close. She's a great soccer athlete. She's a great 200-meter runner. I'm pretty sure that's what she's competing in at state. And I'm pretty sure it was a different event. I think it was more of a field event that she competed in whenever she made it as a sophomore. So really exciting stuff on the track and field side. On the tennis side, we got a result in yesterday for a team from Sumner County that will be competing on the team championship side. That will be Hendersonville. White House lost its game against Summertown, so they will not be in the tournament. But there are a couple of individuals from both White House, Merrill Hyde, and Hendersonville that will be competing as individuals, competing as doubles. Here's that list now. Sophia Ramirez and Mackenzie Jenkins, that double pairing from White House, reached the state tournament. Ramirez qualified last year with her sister. It's a pretty fun story I got to do with all the rain we had in Murfreesboro last year. Tobias Mandeville of Merrill Hyde, Hendersonville's Jackson Penny also being individuals that will make it on to that tournament round. Declan Cleary and Harrison Gill of Merrill Hyde being the other boys double that makes it through there. I believe there are some other team championships that we're waiting results on. That runs through Friday of this week, so hopefully we'll get a couple of more tennis teams in there. But one more Sumner County storyline for you here. A bit of a shock coming out of District and Region 5-4A baseball in that tournament. Beach and Station Camp, the two teams that made it out of District 10-4A, were eliminated before reaching the sectional round. They will not get to see the newly formatted sectional series that seems to be a big hit among teams that maybe wouldn't have as much of an opportunity in a one-game season there in the sectional. Station Camp dropped both games in the region tournament. They lost to district champion Mount Juliet, then lost an elimination game to Beach. Beach won one, of course, being against the Bison, and then dropped two against Green Hill. Both of those Wilson County teams are moving on to the sectional where they hope to make the state tournament. So that's your Sumner County storylines, brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, where fans don't let fans drive drunk. When we come back after a quick break, we'll talk with Chris Freeman, who does a variety of things around Sumner County and in the mid-state. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Omni Nashville Hotel. Urban elegance with a vintage touch. Our 800-room hotel opened up in the fall of 2013 with 746 guest rooms and 54 suites.
It was just a few drinks. I'm good. I thought it was good.
After every game, we always have a few. It's no big deal. It was no big deal.
Hey, I can hold my liquor. I thought I could hold my liquor.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets, and we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
Tired of hanging lights every year? We get it. That's why Southern Nights is here to help. We install programmable lighting on your home or business so you can enjoy beautiful, customizable lighting all year round. No more ladders, tangled lights, or cold nights outside. We do the work, you do the celebrating. Call Southern Nights today and take the hassle out of holiday lighting forever. For a free quote, give us a call at 931-241-3074 or visit our Facebook page at Southern Nights.
And we're back on the Sumner County Sports Show, brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, where fans don't let fans drive drunk. Talking with our guest now, Chris Freeman, who does, as I mentioned, a variety of things in the Sumner County area. I joked with our producer, Justin, Sumner County sports whiz a little bit. Chris, thank you so much for joining us a little bit on late notice, but really appreciate the time today.
Thank you, Blaine. I'm glad to be here today. So I've been in Sumner County a long time, and I love a lot of the great sports things happening around here. So I've even got my second Sumner County kid graduating from White House tonight. So it's a pretty crazy day.
Really exciting time there for you. And we're going to get to that in a minute, talking about Noah and his time at White House. But talk to me just to start off about this new role with WHIN doing the Sumner County Sports Update this spring. I think, admittedly, anything that I haven't been able to get to or find scores on in Sumner County, I've been able to rely on you a little bit to get some answers.
Well, it was kind of an idea that sprung out of football season with a lot of the things that we were doing covering Sumner County teams, and trying to get together a coach's show is really difficult. And so we wanted to do something daily that would be able to run on the air and also be able to be highlighted on social media. So Randy Campbell at WHIN contacted me, said, have you got a mic and a studio at home? I'm not at home today. This is one of my client locations that I do for my business. But he said, you've got a studio and a mic. Could you record this for us? 90 seconds a day, 2 different segments, and it'll run 5 times throughout the day. And it's kind of taken off from there. And this is a really easy season to do it. The challenge will be this summer when there's not a lot of sports going on daily. So that'll be a focus more on individual stories. But right now, by the time we get through our scoreboard, we fill up that minute and a half twice a day really fast.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in a similar boat here, looking at the summer a little bit, just knowing that spring sports are wrapping up rapidly here in Sumner County, and it's a big drop off. There is some sports that happen, I guess, over the summer, but definitely not as many. But kind of give me a look into what today's Sumner County Sports Update looked like for you, and what maybe some highlights around the county that I didn't get to were.
Well, you covered a lot of that, but I think the big soccer matchup tonight between Station Camp and Hendersonville is really interesting, because regardless of what happens in that matchup, I think both of them have a tremendous shot at advancing past the sectional round and getting to the state tournament. Station Camp is the favorite tonight, but Hendersonville hung with them 2-1 in that district championship game. And so I look for that to be a really competitive matchup. I do believe Merrill Hyde probably has a little easier ride tonight with soccer and KIPP Nashville and getting back to the state tournament for them. Tennis continues to be strong. And then really the softball teams ran into a buzzsaw because Middle Tennessee softball is really, really competitive. And we saw that with number 1 ranked Green Hill yesterday, who, from my understanding, didn't even throw their top arm against Beach and kind of saved their top arm for Friday's game. And now Beach has to go to Nolensville, who they've already played and lost to 12-0 one time way earlier in the season. That's going to be a tough road for them. Westmoreland scored against Bledsoe County, the first team in the entire month of May to score against Bledsoe County. They scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 6th last night. So we'll see what Westmoreland can do when they go to Community. And I think that could be a little bit of an upset special if they get Creasy in the circle and she does really well on Friday.
Yeah, Anna Creasy's had a really impressive season this year. I think she had that, was it a 19 strikeout no-hitter a couple of weeks ago?
21 outs and 19 of them by strikeout. That's pretty impressive. I think she did surrender a base runner or two, probably by a walk or an error. So it wasn't a perfect game, but it was a no-hitter. And 19 out of 21 is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you have her in the circle, you give yourself a chance in that sectional game. But Chris, I really wanted to ask you a little bit about all the things that you've been able to do, not only in Sumner County, but in the mid-state as a whole. You've worked with high schools, you do that now with your company, and you spent a long time at White House High School as a sports information director. You've worked with colleges like Vanderbilt, Lipscomb, Trevecca, and Middle Tennessee. You've even gone up to the professional level, working to try to get that Titans PA gig, and then a couple of days ago with the Bowling Green Hot Rods and minor league baseball. I'm curious how you make all of these levels still important to you. Whenever you go from maybe a Vanderbilt basketball game to a high school softball game or something, how you still make each of those a high level importance for you whenever you're there.
Well, first of all, my company things come first, and used to that was being a teacher and working with White House High School. And now I do a lot of the same multimedia things. I just do them as a business instead of working inside the classroom. So my role really hasn't changed. I'm still a photographer. I still do social media, but as well as I do, when you work in media, all of us would love to be full-time in one thing. But unfortunately, in the world that we're in, most people who are doing TV are also doing radio, are also doing some version of statistics or scoreboard or production. We're all doing different roles because multimedia kind of brings it all together in one circle. So for me, I make sure that I focus on the contractual things for my business first, and those things always come first. And then that allows me to set my schedule. And my biggest advantage in the entire world is making sure that I keep my calendar where it needs to be every single day, always on top, and update everything I do. I did miss a photo shoot one time because I was riding to Buc-ee's in East Tennessee with my family, and I just forgot to put something in my calendar. And that was a lesson learned for me, that I can't let anything slip because I'm so busy. How I make them all a priority is simply this. I'm wearing a, MTSU shirt today, and I do MTSU football. I love Vanderbilt basketball and lacrosse, and that's the team that I grew up as a fan. You will see me support the teams that I'm with, and whether that's Lipscomb baseball, Vanderbilt basketball, MTSU football, or any of the high schools in Liberty Creek that I work with, I'm going to be the best teammate and supporter of the teams that I work for. And I guess the best way I could be is when you're kind to everybody and good to everybody, you don't make enemies. And so I just try not to make enemies with the teams that I work with, and do my job very professionally, and always try to do it with class and with professionalism. And then that gives me an opportunity to work in lots of different roles and have good friendship circles in all of those places.
For you, what makes high school sports stand out whenever you have the opportunity to go to some of these high-level games, some of these Power 5 conference games, whether that's with Vanderbilt or even some high-level games that maybe Lipscomb baseball has been a part of this year? What makes high school sports as a whole maybe stick out to you?
Well, when we do the TSSAA state championships, and I do baseball, football, and basketball, and specifically when you get to the Blue Cross basketball championships and the Blue Cross Bowl for football, you're seeing an entire community come together, usually in a larger venue or a basketball arena. But when you get to a Class 1A game and you know that you're competing with a team that only has 1,500 people in their entire town, and you look around the venue and there's probably 1,000 people there from their particular school. That's a pretty impressive thing when you realize that 80% of their community is invested in this game. And those are pretty impressive things to be a part of, to see the cheer teams, the dance teams, the bands, and everybody come together. And college athletics is great. Pro athletics is a different level, but high school athletics at its absolute best is when you have a group of people that beyond their senior year, 95% of these kids are never going to play at the next level. This is going to be the last time that they step on a field for their senior year for their final game. And there's so much emotion and passion and pride for their local communities and their schools. And that's something that you can't find now with the transfer portal in college athletics. That's almost gone completely. But that pride and passion that you see at the high school level is really impressive. It's fun to watch. And it's also, as a dad and a coach and a former SID, it's also really emotional because I've been a part of a few state championships that were associated with our school, specifically 1997 when we won football at White House High School. But every other year ends in a loss. Every other season ends in a loss. Every season you're behind the camera or a clipboard or a video camera or in a huddle where those athletes are about to take that uniform and those shoes off for the very last time. And that's pretty special to be a part of, even when it ends sadly like that.
Chris, you mentioned the TSSAA state championships a moment ago. Those are rapidly approaching upon us here. They start up on Tuesday in Murfreesboro. I got to ask what your plans are for spring fling this year and where you'll be.
So my son has a graduation party on Thursday, so I had to block that day out. So Thursday is an off day for me. But on Tuesday and Wednesday, I'll be working softball, and I don't have my site yet, but it'll be one of the quarterfinal and semifinal sites for softball on Tuesday and Wednesday as a scorekeeper. Going back to the multimedia thing, softball works in a quad, so there's not always announcers at the same level as it is at the championships. And so I'll be an official scorer, working game changer. And then on Friday, I'll be doing the Division I baseball championships as a PA announcer. And that's at Middle Tennessee State University and in the booth there. So I'll have 4 games on Friday. And I would have had the private school games Division II on Thursday, which is a best of it's a best of 2. I guess somebody's got to beat them twice if they are the team with 1 loss. So potentially we could have had 4 games on Thursday, and because of my schedule, I couldn't do that. So I took Thursday off, and they've got somebody there. So I'll be there 3 days in total next week.
Well, you mentioned your son Noah and his graduation party a little bit there. I've been tracking along with his high school tennis season through your Twitter updates. Just wanted to give you a moment here to kind of brag about Noah a little bit, not only as a tennis player, but him following your footsteps a little bit as a person in media.
So Noah, when he was 5 years old, was diagnosed with avascular necrosis, which is the same hip disease that Bo Jackson had when he separated his hip. And they found that after Bo Jackson's injury, and it effectively ended his football career when he had a hip replacement. Noah was given that option at 5, but we opted for an exploratory surgery instead to clip the femoral tendons in his legs and see if we could get the hip to grow back. It did. And so even though he wasn't able to play contact sports, he did become a tennis player, started broadcasting. He's done over 200 games in his own right. And he was certainly a big part of the Blue Devil Network at White House High School. But he's even done some things at Trevecca, MTSU, lots of other stuff for the Scorers Table, which does production and staffing all throughout Tennessee and Kentucky. And he's got a bright future ahead at MTSU in broadcasting. And as a tennis player, Noah is not your typical tennis player. He doesn't look like the tall, lanky, skinny guys that you'll see on the ATP tour. But the one thing I can tell you about Noah is that he honed his craft. His former tennis coach, the late Bill Rapune, who was a great friend of mine who passed away, was the one that got Noah into tennis. He said, look, you can't play other sports. Why don't you come try this? And that was the best thing that ever happened for Noah. He was a 2-time district semifinalist. And the guy that has beaten him 2 different times, is now playing in the state championships, and that is Mr. Mandeville from Merrill Hyde. So it's not a bad thing when the state champion is the one knocking you out every year, and I'm really, really proud of Noah and how hard he played.
He's a special kid, special tennis player, special dad all together there. Chris, want to give you thanks, give you props for joining us today on the Sumner County Sports Show. Before we let you go, give you a second here to promote your company, promote the Sumner County Sports Update that you guys are doing here.
So WHIN Radio does the Sumner County Sports Update, brought to you by Shrums Roofing of Gallatin every day, and that is early in the morning at 6:30 and 7:30, and then in the afternoons at 5:25, 6:25, and 7:25 on 100.7, 1010 AM, WHIN, and you can also listen at WHINradio.com. My company is Strategic Marketing Solutions. We specialize in digital media and photography, and if you need help with your photography, specifically for sports action photos and team photos, if you're a school or a local rec team, we would love to help out. And I love to do that every single day. And I've been working with sports in Middle Tennessee for almost 30 years. And we would love to help you and your school and your organization as well.
This is what you get when you bring a professional onto the show. None of this was scripted. Chris had no idea what he was getting into once I asked him to come on. And just like that, like lightning, he's got it figured out. Like he's got it written down. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Blaine, thank you for having me on today, and I'm glad to help anytime. And now it's time to go get ready for graduation.
All right. Well, we'll let you go here, and we'll take one more break here on the Sumner County Sports Show. When we come back, give you some closing thoughts, some games to watch out for. Stay tuned.
It was just a few drinks. I'm good. I thought I was good.
After every game, we always have a few. It's no big deal. It was no big deal.
Hey, I can hold my liquor. I thought I could hold my liquor.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets. And we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
The Sumner County Sports Show is brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, where fans don't let fans drive drunk. Want to give a huge thank you to Chris Freeman again for joining us today, giving us some great insight into Sumner County sports and to broadcasting as a whole. Give you a couple of closing thoughts here. 2 games to watch out for in the soccer world. Station Camp Hendersonville, of course. Great games last year, great games this year. Could be Hendersonville's turn to pick up a win after losing 2 in the regular season and postseason. Will a region championship be in their sights? We'll see. On the other side, Merrill Hyde and Kip Nashville. Chris kind of previewed this one a little bit. Both of those games were 1-0 decisions. Kip beat Merrill Hyde in the regular season 1-0, and then Merrill Hyde beat Kip in the district championship 1-0. So 2 great soccer games to watch out for. Just Sumner County is filled with a great, rich history and a great, rich crop of talent in the soccer world. That does it for us here on the Sumner County Sports Show. Be sure to stick around next week. We've got some really great results and some state tournament teams to watch out for in Murfreesboro. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.